everyone, my name is Sam and I'm a developer here at Velocity Software. Today I'm going to be showing you an in-depth demo of our newest support feature called zPRO from Ansible. This feature works by driving API calls from Ansible to zPRO, allowing users to take advantage of zPRO's powerful functions, including but not limited to creating new servers and managing existing ones. Many companies are already using Ansible to do things like lifecycle management, patching of Linux servers, and automation processes. To show you this demo, I will be using a brand new server. This is a RHEL version 9.3. I just built this using zPRO. It took about 20 seconds to do so. After downloading the code from the site, our first step is to unpack this Ansible tarball. This is the command to do so. As you can see here, we successfully unpacked it, and now we are left with the zPRO API directory. Our next step is to download the packages required to run Ansible. First, we're going to download Ansible Core. We can do so by running this command here, yum install Ansible Core. Our next step is to install pip from Python. To ensure pip gets installed in the correct location, we are going to check which version of Python Ansible is using. We can do so by running this command. This tells us that Ansible Core is using the Python version of 3.9.18. We want to specify that version while running this command, yum install python 3.9-pip. The final step is to install pexpect from pip. We do that by running this command, pip3 install pexpect. If you're running pip as the root user, you may see this warning message. It's not going to affect my system, so I'm just going to ignore it. And that's it. That's all we have to do in order to use zPRO from Ansible. It was simple, quick, and easy to install with no overhead and no SMAPI. And now we are ready to start building API calls. To do anything with this feature, we must start inside the zPRO API directory. Inside, we see a couple different files in a library directory. The only files we need to concern ourselves with are the two playbooks. These are configuration.yaml and zpro.yaml. First, I'm going to walk you through, step by step, how to use the configuration playbook. The configuration playbook builds a configuration file that is used to store multiple entries of login credentials and target systems. You can create, update, delete, and view entries. First, I'm going to show you how to create an entry. This is the command you will use to create an entry. Ansible-playbook configuration.yaml. The -t stands for tag, and our tag here is create. -e is extra variables, and for every entry we create, we must have 4 variables: username, password, hostname, and a nickname to associate with that entry. In my example here, username and password are my login credentials. Hostname is where I'm connecting to, and nickname is just a name to associate with this entry. This file is encrypted using Ansible Vault. When we create our very first entry, we're going to be asked to create a new Vault password. We will use this Vault password every time we make a change to our config file. Now we have a message saying our entry was successfully created. If we wanted to view the contents of our config file, we would run this command right here, Ansible-playbook configuration.yaml with the tag of view. When we run that command again, we are asked to enter our Vault password. After doing so, we can see that our config file has been printed to the console. Here, it lists out the nickname, the host name, the username, and the password. Let's add another entry. Here, I'm using the exact same variables as our last entry. This time, my nickname is Sandbox. Our entry has been successfully created, and now we should have 2 entries in our config file. Let's view our config file again. We now have 2 entries with the same variables and different nicknames. Now I'm going to show you how we can update an entry. Here I will be updating our sandbox entry, and I am changing the hostname to just be velocitysoftware.com. When we run the view command again, we can see our entry was successfully updated. Now we have sandbox with a hostname of velocitysoftware.com. Our test entry remains the same. Finally, I'm going to show you how we can delete an entry from our config file. Here we have the same format as the other commands. My tag is now delete, and the only extra variable we need is the nickname of the entry to be deleted. Again, we are going to enter our password, and we have a success message saying that our entry has been deleted. I ran the view command one last time, and now we can see here that the only entry we have left in our config file is test. And that is everything we can do using the configuration playbook. And now I'm going to show you how to use the zPRO playbook to build and drive API calls. Here's the command we are going to use to build and drive the API calls from Ansible to zPRO. When using an entry from the configuration file we just created, we only need 3 variables. Here, nickname is the entry consisting of my login credentials and target system. VaultPass is the password I created to encrypt my configuration file. And the request I want to send to zPRO is guest list. And that's it. When we scroll up, we can see my entire output has been printed to the console. Here is what zPRO has sent back. If we don't want to display our return data, we can use the quiet equals yes variable. Here is my output when quiet is turned on. As you can see, no sensitive data gets printed to the console. Every time we make an API call, the return data gets written to this output.json file. Here's what we see when we view the output.json file. If we don't want to use the configuration file, we can make the exact same API call using a couple extra variables. Our extra variables must include the username, the password, and the hostname, along with the request we want to send to zPRO. As you can see, we get the same result as when we ran it with the configuration file. So now you know 2 different ways to build and drive API calls. Now I'm going to show you one of the coolest things you can do with this feature, and that's build brand new servers. In this command, I will be showing you how to build a CMS user ID. Here I have my nickname and VaultPass variables, which are going to grab my login credentials. The request I'm sending to zPRO is guest create. The guest I want to create is going to be called John, and the gold image I'm using from zPRO is gold CMS. This will build a CMS user ID named John. And just like that, we're done. When we scroll up, we can see that the Guest John creation has started. We are also given a work unit so we can check on its progress. So now that the creation of Guest John is complete, we can run an API call to start it. Again, we have nickname and vault pass. Our request for zPRO is guest run state. The guest we want to start is John, and the action is start. And there we go. If we scroll up, we can see guest John has started. So those were just a few examples of the API calls we can make from Ansible to zPRO. The very last thing I'm going to show you today is how to sign out. When we want to sign out, we use the zPRO playbook. Here, we have an extra variable of hostname and a tag of sign out. These are the only two things you need to sign out. And there we go, we have successfully signed out. Alright, that's everything I have for the demo today, and that was just a fraction of what you can do with this feature. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and if you have any further questions, the official documentation can be found on our website, or questions can be emailed to support@velocitysoftware.com.